it's the thing. One of the things that's so interesting is I've been thinking a lot about the relationship between power and authority.
Oh yes. Okay. Yes. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
this seems to me what you were describing is
Yes.
as an expression of authority, which is different from power. And authority always has this witness character. You rather than imposing your will is you see your will as a kind of an instrument by which you allow something greater than yourself to be realized. You sort of you bear witness
Oh.
to what is higher than you in order to try to help it be realized and what's given to you to it's given into your responsibility. You know,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Okay. Okay.
authority, there's no such thing as an authority that doesn't acknowledge something higher.
Mm. Mm.
So that the will of the authority it's different. In the will of power, you impose your will. In the
Yep.
will of authority, you mediate the will of something
Yep.
higher,
Yep.
or the principle of order that's higher than you. Now, the very first thing I think that a father can do for his children is just love to be with them.
Hmm. Yeah.
To actually enjoy being with, and that,
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing how much is being communicated to them in ways that you don't have to deliberately teach or explain. I mean, eventually that's going to be an important role, and eventually a child is going to want you to explain things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to try to understand the world better precisely so that I can pass this on to my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I have a responsibility. One of the things it means to be a father is to learn about the world so that I can explain it to my kids. There's something really beautiful about that. It's very different if you think of yourself as really responsible for presenting the world to
Yeah.
them
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
presenting them to the world.
Well, I mean, understanding authority is authorship, right? That
Yeah.
I always think of J.K. Rowling. The whole like universe and story came to her, like it incurred on her suddenly, and she,
Yeah.
that way of thinking about authorship is that like you see something higher,
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
translate it into a horizontally shareable like
Yeah.
medium so that other people can participate in this higher order thing that you've seen.
Yeah.
And the way that I teach my children to pay attention to things
Hmm.
does actually author the world they live in. The
Hmm.
way I tell them the story of what's important,
Hmm.
like it does author their world.
Yeah.
And to do
Yeah.
that in a way that is not a production,
Right.
like you said, but is actually cultivating a fruitfulness,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Where it's like, because this is what I'm trying to do all the time is like take some of the more impactful, insightful, beautiful sort of discoveries and ideas from my journey through life, and how do I say this in a way that it lands for my children,
Yeah. Yeah.
not so that they get the concept that I have, I'm not interested in that, but so that they can see and live in the way that it's afforded me to see and live.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to liberate them into seeing the world for themselves. I mean, that's
Yes,
at the heart of
exactly.
all this. Yeah, no, that image that you use is beautiful. That's a profound, I didn't even think about it in those terms, but artistic inspiration and connecting that with authorship, that's beautifully done. Genuinely creative work,
Yeah.
genuine a creative use of the imagination always exceeds the particular uh, artist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever you read artists sort of explaining what they're doing, they always will say, "I don't know where the idea came from."
Yes.
It just sort of rises from deeply within you. You contrast that, when people talk about a work of art or a play or a story as being contrived,
Yeah.
what they mean is this person, it's too deliberately put together, and so in a way it tends to have too simplistic a form.
Absolutely.
And that would be like power. You
Yes.
are making the decisions, you're putting these pieces together, whereas with authority, it's arising within you, and it and fruitfully emerges from you, and it has a life of its own, which
Yes.
then allows those who enter into it to be rejuvenated. They sort of
Yes.
share in the life of it. It's really interesting to think of like parental authority along those lines. That's
Yes.
you should write a book.
Yeah.
That would,
Yeah.
that would be a great little reflection, I think.
Yeah.
You were talking about teaching your children to attend to the world in a certain way.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why the first way to do that, obviously, is by attending to the world yourself.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
You sort of, it's not just that you're modeling it for them. Of course, you're doing that, but there's something about you're opening, by your doing it, you're opening up in a way that they can enter into and do it on their own.
Yes.
And then you can also try to explain what's going on, and point things out to them. But if you're pointing out to things that you yourself are not attending to, those instructions fall flat, and the kids, they might not realize it, but they don't believe it.
Yes.
And they won't really give themselves to it.
Yes, because there's a subtle value communication in the way you show up, right? It's like what you were saying before, that like the fundamental principle of fatherhood might be, I propose this might be the case, is that you enjoy being with your children.
Mm-hmm.
I pay a lot of attention to that. It's a subliminal communication of value that happens there, right? And they know it. There's no way you can fake enjoying being with someone, right? Like,
that's right.
If somebody's not enjoing being with you, you will know it. And
isn't that funny? And that's why so much of parenthood goes on. It's like, be a good person and parent naturally, rather than here's your list of instructions of things to do.
Yeah.
Because if you follow the list of instructions, it's going to be contrived and it's going to be experienced that way. But if you just enter into the reality with love and wonder and enthusiasm, that kind of thing does just, automatically communicate it just spontaneously to your children.
Yeah.
And everybody else. I mean, this is
exactly.
My work is teaching, and this happens in the classroom. I mean, it's at the heart of the matter.
Absolutely. Look, and so I think that what I notice in myself is that when I'm in the place that I'm just enjoying being with my children, and my daughter loves to ask, "What's that?" Like, she's always, "What's that? What's that? What's that?"
Yeah.
And I notice that if there's a way that I can answer that, because I'm not enjoying considering what that is, and I'm wanting to, sort of dismiss the moment and go back to whatever it was that I was doing before. And that is where, like you said, the sorts of explanations begin to fall very flat very quickly. And she, it doesn't do good things for the experience of all of us. But if instead I actually take a minute and I sort of think of it from her perspective, and then I try to name the thing and give a little description of where it fits in reality in a way that she might find helpful, but also that's not closed. Like, I really don't want to close anything. And when that happens, it's really cool, and I enjoy it too. Like, I enjoy it a lot more as well.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, you genuinely do enjoy it. But here, that's a nice example. If the child sort of says, "What's that?" and you think, "Oh, here we go again." You can't enter into it. And you might give a perfectly good explanation, but the child doesn't feel satisfied.
Right. Yeah.
And also, if the child is pointing to a flower and says, "What's that?"
Yeah.
Instead of looking at the flower, you look at the child and you just say, "Oh, what a wonderful person you are for being so curious. You are so smart. You're so curious." The child isn't thinking about himself or herself. Your daughter, when she asks these questions, she's not thinking about herself. She wants to know what that is.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is, if you really pour yourself into contemplating the flower with her eyes, you actually are attending to her at the same time. Correct?
Yes.
You're affirming her in a really profound way at her roots, in a way that's more profound than if you were talking to her and ignored her question about the flower.
Yes.
So weirdly, you're looking away from her at the flower, but in a profound way, you're actually being with her and affirming her in herself much more profoundly. Yes. And I mean, because you're taking her question seriously.
Yes. Yes.
and you're affirming the reality. If you looked at her, you'd be dismissing her question. So she, as a questioning child, would be neglected, would be
Right.
ignored.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's such an interesting thing,
It
how
is.
looking away can be the deepest way of looking at, in a sense.
Yes. Yes. Or you talked about authorship as being this sort of like you're witnessing the thing that is above. You're in touch with the good, true, and the beautiful that's above
Yeah,
you. You're witnessing
yeah,
it and you're bringing it down. And that actually means something, right? Like if the humility is being born out of a place where it's genuine humility, it's not just sort of cowardice and weakness,
yeah.
right?
Right.
Then it's because there is an attachment to something higher, and there's going to be an organic sort of directedness to things,
Yeah.
you
Nice.
know.